Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships. Today we're going to take on 5 signs that you are self-gaslighting. It's bad enough that we're gaslighted by other people, but I think a big part of the problem is that we internalize that. We start doing it to ourselves. Have you ever said to yourself stuff like, I can't believe I forgot that. I'm so dumb. I am sure I am the one who forgot. If you have, then you have gaslighted yourself. You might be thinking, what? You mean that it's not just someone else gaslighting me? I can gaslight myself? Yeah, you can. And you may be wondering, is this the equivalent of punching myself in the face? Not really. I really do think that self-gaslighting is just an internalization of the self-talk that grows out of narcissistic relationships. And also for some people, we find ourselves kind of trying to get ahead of the narcissistic person gaslighting us. But over time, it becomes a sort of internalized narrative and self-talk about yourself. I'm dumb, I'm foolish, I'm disorganized, I'm a mess. And that self-talk shapes how we go through the world. Many people who believe they have imposter syndrome will self-gaslight. I don't belong here, I'm going to be found out, this is just luck. And then that self-gaslighting can end up being mirrored by other people in the room. How did you get here? Are you sure you know what you're talking about? And the whole damn thing sustains. Now, it's a balancing act, obviously. We have to have some willingness to take some ownership for things like saying things like, let me double check. You had us down for Tuesday. Let me double check my schedule. That kind of stuff is not self-gaslighting. But immediately assuming that it's you that made the mistake and then putting yourself down, I'm sure I'm the one who messed up. I'm sure this was my fault because I'm so foolish. I'm so disorganized. That is what self-gaslighting looks like. So let's lay out the 5 signs of self-gaslighting. Number 1, you always assume that it's you that got it wrong. Whether it's a scheduling mistake, where something was put, anything that may affect someone else. You will be the first one to step in and say, oh, it must have been me. I'm foolish. I'm dumb. I'm disorganized. I'm a mess, whatever. Number 2 is that you apologize all the time. Always, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Now listen, offering up an apology when you might have done a mistake or made a mistake or just did something that might have, inconvenience or slightly harmed someone, that's not self-gaslighting. But apologizing when you didn't do anything wrong, like let's say you're walking through a door and you're like, I'm sorry, that's a sign that you may be prone to self-gaslighting. A third sign that you may be a self-gaslighter is self-talk, where you almost reflexively refer to yourself as stupid or foolish or dumb. Oh, I'm so stupid. How could I ever have been so foolish? Even when all you might have done was forget the quarters for a parking meter, you go right there. Instead of like, oh, forgot the quarters, you go right to, I'm so dumb. Number 4 sign is undercutting your own abilities on a regular basis. Things like, I'm really disorganized. I have ADHD, so my memory must suck. Or I really don't know what I'm talking about. Or I didn't go to college, so maybe I'm not the one to ask. When you do this often, when you devalue your abilities in response to just about anything, it's as though an internalization of a sense of not being competent or qualified just comes out all the time. Number 5 sign of self-gaslighting is that you minimize your achievements. This sometimes may feel like humility, as though a person is trying to not brag. But a sign of self-gaslighting is to do this often. You might say things like, I'm just a self-taught cook, or I got lucky, or oh, this is beginner's luck, or back in my day, anyone could have gotten into that school. It may be an almost reflexive response to any compliment. Self-gaslighting can often be a self-protective maneuver. Like I said, trying to get ahead of the gaslighting or invalidation that other people may be doing. So you know they're going to gaslight you to kind of get ahead of it. But most often it's an internalization of the invalidating, minimizing, and shaming narrative of the narcissistic people around you. Narcissistic folks indoctrinate you into believing that you are less than, that you're not enough. And the slow taking on of their distorted narrative means that you are often doubting your own reality and undermining yourself. If you grew up with a gaslighting parent, that internalization, it really, and that self-talk becomes almost automatic and may even manifest as you doubting yourself all the time and double and triple checking things to the point it feels almost compulsive. Pay attention to these signs of self-gaslighting, and if you are finding yourself doing them, you may very well be a self-gaslighter, which ultimately does undermine you. And sadly, it makes the narcissistic person's job a lot easier. And keep in mind, when you self-gaslight enough, not only may you talk yourself out of opportunities or things that are good for you, you may also present yourself as somebody who's not competent, you constantly call yourself foolish. Say something enough, especially to people who don't know you well. They might think like, ooh, this person may not be confident, or maybe they don't know what they're doing. And you may end up shooting yourself in the foot in terms of losing opportunities that you are more than deserving of. So catch yourself, don't do it, but pay attention to those signs, because a lot of people didn't realize that they can gaslight themselves. Thanks again.